Welcome to Birds of Prey Sports Talk. We're your hosts, Jared and TJ. And in this video, we'll be breaking down the 2 days of OTAs that just happened. They believe they started on Tuesday. And, the football season is getting closer. We're getting, it feels like every day we're getting, we really are every single day getting closer, but with OTA starting, feels like a bigger deal this year considering, there's a new offense. Lamar got his contract. We got him new weapons. And it's like a breath of fresh air. You can't wait. When you had the Greg Roman style offense and then you had like kind of meh receivers starting, you
Yeah.
weren't exactly excited for the offense besides Lamar Jackson. And, with his contract out of the way, they had to find something to complain about, right? And they're done pocket watching him, so now they're watching everything else he's doing, which is pathetic in the slightest. And he even said today that he wanted to come in and he wanted to learn the new offense. And he said there's a lot of verbiage. He likes it, but we'll get into that in a minute. Before we get started on all the OTA talk, I do want to bring up something that caught my attention. It was Chuck Clark doing his OTA interview. He was doing a press conference today, or no, it was yesterday, I believe.
Yes.
And in the video or in the interview, he claims he was ready to get out of there, meaning Baltimore.
Mhm.
Didn't like the situation he was put in. Felt like he wasn't being respected. Now, didn't like the situation he was put in is obviously us drafting Kyle Hamilton in his, probably going to take his job, but Chuck Clark didn't let him and felt like he wasn't being respected. Now, I want to bring up something that he played on every down, he played on every snap. It was always quiet his way, which means that he either didn't let his assignment blow by him or didn't, maybe quarterbacks were not targeting his area because they knew he was smart. Also, he had the green dot on his head. So he was the vocal leader of the defense, most likely. So that I don't get. Being disrespected. That I do not get in the slightest because we give him a contract, right?
Mhm.
We gave him a contract, after, the disaster that would happen with Earl Thomas,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and, it makes you think it makes you think because in his tenure with the Ravens, he only recorded 5 career interceptions, 5. And 2 of them were in one game to see like only 3 other games he got an interception. I can only remember 2019 Jets, and that's it. I don't remember the other 2. Other
Rams.
3.
Rams.
Rams? No, got 2 in the Rams. I just mentioned that. And
Oh,
then he got the one versus the Jets in 2019. And then I think he got one versus the Raiders. He probably dropped them. Oh,
dropped
that's
them.
another thing.
Yeah.
He had he had he had bricks for hands as well. So it seemed like he dropped everything that came his way. But I guess I'm glad he's not a wide receiver. Anyway, the question I want to throw your way is like I already said I understand he didn't like the situation he was put in, which means someone was there to take his job. But what do you think was disrespectful to him, considering I mentioned everything that put him in a leader role in that defense?
You know, when you look at a guy, that was in Chuck Clark's position, Earl Thomas, got in big trouble, got cut from the Ravens in the offseason. So
And
Earl
choked him
Thomas'
out.
role, what was
Yeah,
that?
Earl Thomas choked him out. Didn't he punch
Yeah,
him? Yeah,
I
Earl
mean,
Thomas punched
I was
Chuck
doing
Clark.
stuff. I was doing stuff with his brother, but yeah, that too. But Chuck Clark came in and took his role well,
Yeah,
and like how you said, he played most of his snaps, had captain, the secondary or green dot or whatever,
yeah,
and then the Ravens go ahead and draft Kyle Hamilton. So I
right.
feel like maybe in that regard, he saw that as disrespect. Like, wow, they're trying to move on to me, and I've been consistent. I've been reliable for the defense on this team. But it's kind of funny because he really never was supposed to be the number one like safety option on our team in the first
Yep.
place. And so I feel like, while I can kind of understand him being disrespected, there also has to come an understanding that, you know, he never was supposed to be that guy anyway
Right.
on the defense. And so that's where Kyle Hamilton comes in to develop him to get him to that role. So, this is a league, you can't have feelings in this league. It's all business at the end of the day. And I feel like, that was kind of the part that caused him to feel disrespected.
Yeah. And I just want to just correct you for a second. he actually replaced, I believe, Tony Jefferson when he got hurt in 2019 versus the Steelers
Okay,
because he
okay,
came
okay.
in that game. Deshaun Elliott, I think, was the one who replaced Earl Thomas when he decided to go on full GTA mode. And so I think I remember that correctly because I remember him showing up after the Steelers game. But anyway, but pretty much everything you said was correct. He wasn't the number one guy, and let's be real. While he was a very smart dude, he was a liability physically. He would get outbodied. Tight ends would probably eat him alive if he had to cover them consistently.
Mhm.
I thought Kyle Hamilton did a good job towards the end of the season covering tight ends and being a great, all over the field type safety. And he showed flashes of potential. He didn't get any picks, but
Yeah,
he really wasn't into a position to get one.
yeah. I mean,
And go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to interject. I mean, when you look at Kyle Hamilton's body, he's tall, kind of
Right.
lanky, he's fast, he has good
Strong.
he's strong, he has kind of long arms. I feel like he has good hands too. You
Right.
know, compared to Chuck Clark, he was kind of short, kind of on the older side, maybe in like his early to mid 30s when he first started playing the lead role for us. So
Yep.
yeah, in terms of the physicals, stuff like that, Kyle Hamilton was better.
Yep. I agree 100% because I can think of two plays that were huge in games for us that Kyle Hamilton made was the fumble he caused in New England and the
Hmm.
fumble he caused in Cincinnati in the playoff game to get us back into that game.
Hmm.
Now, there really isn't a Chuck Clark moment that you can think of where it was a big game changing play. He was a very smart dude when it came to defense, but like I said, he's very much a liability when it comes to, his physicality. And I think it showed by him being traded for a seventh round pick.
Yeah.
So that showed that the Jets didn't value him higher, or even the Ravens didn't value him as high. So it'll be interesting to
Even
see,
even
huh?
the Jets disrespected him in a way.
Exactly, trading for a seventh round pick, and
Yeah.
I think it was from next year, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't mean to like dog on Chuck Clark or anything, but and I'm not in the room with him at all. So EDC could have totally said something in the pocket. It doesn't seem like something he would do, but it could have happened. So we're not here to just trash on Chuck Clark. We appreciate his tenure here. He was very smart and he made some good plays every once in a while, but I feel like it was time to move in a different direction. And EDC understood that. And that's why he took Kyle Hamilton. I was confused at first why we took him because I knew we had Chuck Clark, but seeing how how Kyle Hamilton developed over the seasons or over the season, you can definitely tell why this man was 14th overall draft pick.
Yeah.
Definitely was fast, physical, strong, smart as well, and I'm excited to see more of him and
Yeah.
in more of an expanded role, hopefully.
Yeah. And I was just trying to look at some comments on that video you read,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much people kind of agree with us, that he had this one guy says he had every opportunity in the world to be that guy, but never took advantage, so
Yep.
stuff like that. He had opportunities, maybe if he could have better hands,
Yep.
be like Minka Fitzpatrick, be like Tyrann Matthew,
Right.
a Bates, he would, possibly still be here, but yeah, he had opportunities.
Yep. So like I said, 5 picks in the what 3-4 years he was here.
Yeah, and two
So
and two of them from one
two
game.
in one game. That's not going to get it done.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously right now I think our ball hawking safety is probably Marcus Williams, but you know, I just hopefully this new scenery for Chuck Clark, he does well.
Mhm.
I wish nothing bad towards the guy. Like I said, I appreciate his tenure here, but I did find those comments to be, a little out of left field because at the end of the year, the press conference, I believe somebody posted a video where he, was excited for this year and was felt like he was respected in this defense or whatever. I don't
Mhm.
remember the official things that he said, but we do know what he said up in New York, and I think that wasn't maybe we missed something. I don't know, but we don't want to turn this into a whole Chuck Clark video. We want to get into OTAs. So, like I mentioned earlier, OTAs did start on Tuesday, and Lamar showed up for it on Wednesday, which was today. And I want your opinion here. If Lamar didn't show up to OTAs this year, would you have been concerned?
Um, I'd be a little bit concerned, especially because he just got his contract,
Mm-hmm.
oh, then it come to question is okay, since he got paid, is he going to be a little bit lazy now?
Hmm.
The love and effort for the game going to be a little bit diminished? Those questions will start rising. But
Yep.
I honestly feel like with Lamar, there's always a good reason. I don't
Hmm.
feel like he would just do something for no reason.
Right.
Be like kind of like a Jamarcus Russell guy. Who won't take the game.
Yeah.
I feel like there's always going to be a good reason. So I trust in Lamar. I really do. I trust in that man. And I'm glad that didn't happen.
Right. And with Jamarcus Russell, wasn't he the one where they sent him like blank tapes and they told him to watch it and there was like nothing on the tapes
And he didn't.
and he didn't watch them and they said, "What did you see here?" And he made up all this stuff and
Yeah,
nothing was on it. Yeah, Jamarcus Russell was interesting, wasn't he?
yeah,
But anyway, I'd have to agree with you. I mean, it wouldn't have been too like out of his realm because he didn't show up the last few years, and I think it's more because he understood the offense, Greg Roman's system, whatever that was like. I want to apologize there that that same little what do you want to call it, like a cutoff.
yeah. We had
I
tech.
don't know what. Yeah, yeah, we had technical issues. I don't know what's going on, but we're gonna continue on with the video anyway. Um, Pretty much, I was saying, it wouldn't have been too out of his realm to not show up, because like I said, because he didn't the last few years because he knew Greg Roman's offense, but for him to show up, be with his guys, I think pretty much everybody was there. I know OBJ wasn't there, Mark Andrews I don't think was there either, so pretty much everybody was there, besides I believe those two. It may have been more. I didn't check, but for him to be there with his guys, it shows that he does care. He wants to learn this new offense and he wants to win. And I don't think that should ever been in question, in my opinion. That never should be in question for him, because he'll always show up for actual mandatory stuff and be there to play and be ready.
Yeah, and I
So
wanted to say it. I saw that OBJ, he actually was doing his own workouts with DeAndre
yeah,
Hopkins
yeah,
and Saquon Barkley, I believe. So
mm,
I think when it comes to voluntary OTAs, I feel like OBJ always does his own. He's like
yeah,
one of those high profile players that
yeah,
he does his own stuff. Like,
right.
do you think that's going to be a problem? Especially right now, early on in the OTAs. Maybe guys when they get a little bit more chemistry, especially with the Ravens coaches. You think that's going to be a problem?
Um, I'm not entire. I don't think so. I really think that OBJ is just really just kind of a special talent, and he's already been in the Top Monken offense. So I think that he probably already knows some of the verbiage if it's still the same. And I'm pretty sure he has like a playbook or something along the lines of like that where he can study it because he definitely seems like he's a studier. When it comes to a playbook and tries to perfect his craft, and that's why he's doing all his stuff. He feels like he's gonna like since this is voluntary, he doesn't need to be there, and he can do his thing where he needs to be. And then when training camp actually starts, he will be there, and I'm most likely he'll be there. Same thing with Andrews, and then everybody will be together. And honestly, I think what he's doing is good. It's not like he's just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
He's not a freelancer. He like him and Andrews are both working. I believe OBJ's in Arizona, and I want to say Mark Andrews is also in Arizona. Um, but I don't think they're together. I don't remember though, but I knew he was working with like DeAndre Hopkins and
And
somebody
Saquon,
else.
yeah.
Saquon. Yeah, you said Saquon. So yeah,
And
I do
I
want
feel
to. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
just want to say that's the things that come with like high profile players or very popular players in the league. They seem to have their own training regiments on the side. I mean, and
Yeah.
hey, that's what made them who they are today. So, by all means, go for it. So that's just an observation I
So
had.
I do want to mention all the absences that were on day two. So J.K. Dobbins wasn't there. Patrick Card, OBJ, obviously we said that. James Prochet, Mark Andrews, Kevin Zeitler, Ronnie Stanley, Tyus Bowser, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, and Jeff Zrebeck claims that there's more absences, but he just didn't mention them. Gus Edwards, I believe, was there, but he wasn't practicing. Yeah, he was on the field, but he wasn't practicing. And I do want to ask you, with Rashad Bateman being back, finally, he's in OTAs. Are you excited are you not excited, but do you think he has the potential for a breakout season, especially with all this talent around him and Zay Flowers, OBJ, and all that?
I feel like he definitely has a lot to prove this season. When he first came in, he was looked at as the number one guy possibly in a room. He was looked up as
Mm-hmm.
the big guy, to develop into the big guy. But now you have competition. And not
Right.
to say it's not like it's not to say it's like, you know, like really, really competition where it's like he'll lose his
Right.
job. But
Right.
he has to kind of prove himself again that he really can live up to those wide receiver one fantasies that the Ravens had in mind for him when they drafted him.
Right.
So I feel like we can expect a lot out of him this season. I feel like he'll fly under the radar, which is good for him right now because you don't want everybody hyping him up and expecting him to be this, and then he gets hurt or something. I feel like right now he's at a good spot. He can fly
Hmm.
under the radar, build himself up, learn from OBJ,
Hmm.
and maybe learn something from Zay Flowers,
Yep.
Nelson Aguilar. We have a pretty deep wide receiving core. So I feel like he's at a good spot right now. I'm excited to see what he brings this season.
Right. And speaking of Zay Flowers, I have a quote here from Sarah Ellison during Lamar's press conference. It says Lamar's initial response to wide receiver Zay Flowers. He says, and I quote, Zay is shifty. He's very fast, explosive. He can stop on a dime. I know y'all seen it like I've seen it. I saw it yesterday and I saw it today. He is smooth. I mean, come on. If that doesn't get, has he ever talked about a guy like that? Like, be real here. Like, he may talk highly about Bateman. He probably talk highly about Hollywood, but like, that's got to make you excited. And that's got to bring up some kind of confidence boost for Zay Flowers, knowing that your quarterback saying that, and you guys have barely been on the field together.
I mean, it just shows how excited Lamar is for this offense. I mean, he's finally got himself some credible receivers around him. I mean, and the
Yep.
receivers feel the same way. And just as Lamar sees the potential in Zay Flowers, I see it too.
Yep.
I like I said, I see him as like a Tyreek Hill type guy. I really feel like he's fast. Like he can stop on a dime. He has great control of his body, his balance. I'm
Mm-hmm.
really excited to see what he can do. I want to see Lamar lob deep passes to him all day long and just score touchdowns.
Right. Yeah. So I also want to bring up another quote here, as they were. It seems that Todd Munkin is a little bit more of a vocal offensive coordinator, more than probably Greg Roman was. We didn't really hear much about that.
Mhm.
And here's a tweet from Sarah Ellison. It says Lamar Jackson was asked what it's like to have such a vocal offensive coordinator practice, and he says, "Not even just at practice, even in the meeting room. Coach is very active. He's talkative, and you're enjoying the learning process. And what he's teaching us about the new offense is fun." And we kind of need that, I kind of want a guy who's, going to be vocal, who's going to, talk. It kind of felt like Greg seemed like he was kind of like, how do I say this? Like quiet, let
Yeah.
guys work. And that's what I was talking about in one of our earlier videos. Is it seemed like the reason why he didn't know how to develop wide receivers very well or use them is because he gave them the keys to the car before giving them a license. When it comes to having your own route trees as a receiver, and like guys, I don't understand fully offensive concepts. I am not an offensive coordinator. I am not a football player. Obviously, I guess that's why I'm doing podcasts. But it definitely seemed like the wide receivers were given too much of responsibility earlier in their careers when they didn't earn it. Not everyone's going to come up and freaking shine and in the bright lights like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase because their craft has already been perfected back in college, So, and even maybe before that. So, with the receivers that we've gotten, you can't just give them the keys and expect them to drive on the highway and expect them to get from point A to point B without getting banged up a little bit. To me, it felt like that's the reason why there was a lot of offensive confusion, either from Lamar to the receivers or the receivers running into each other on mid play. And I guess I just want to ask you, do you agree with what I say at all?
Yeah, I mean, and it kind of goes back, to when me and you were talking before. I remember you said how it kind of bothers you how, Greg Roman's always up in the booth, all the way up, you know, not on the field when he's calling plays. You
Mm-hmm.
said that you're like a coach who's on the field, right where the players are,
Right.
calling offensive coordinator plays. And I'm not sure if that's something that every offensive coordinator does, like stays
Yeah.
in the
It
or
seems like it.
yeah, it seems like it. But you know, I like that he's more talkative with the team. I like that he makes it more fun for the players, and
Right.
that when you make it more fun for the players, that brings open opportunities to have good connections with the players and
Yep.
have good chemistries. If an argument happens, if frustration happens, you can talk it out easily because you've already built that. And
Yep.
with Roman, it seemed like that wasn't there.
Yep.
There was frustration, and it's like the way it was handled, it kind of felt cringe in a way, because it
Mm-hmm.
felt like Greg Roman just didn't have the respect of the players.
Yeah.
I mean, even after that Ravens road game, when there was the papers outside of the hotel, I think that said fire Greg Roman,
Yeah.
just the way that was handled. it seemed as if he didn't really have respect from the team like that. You know, you
Yep.
have Ravens players reposting that and stuff like that. You know, it just seemed very awkward and cringe and just secondhand embarrassment watching all of that unfold. So it's
Yeah.
good to see, you know, a new offensive coordinator stepping in, having fun with the guys, talking to the guys, making it just making the whole process just feel more inclusive, you know,
Right.
and like how you said.
And I guess another thing about that is, there was a clear outspoken dislike of the play calling and the system,
Yeah.
especially from older players who had, the reputation already, like Des Bryant, Deshaun Jackson. They clearly did not like this offense.
Yeah.
And Des Bryant spoke out about it when after 2020 season, after he was gone, and J.K. Dobbins clearly didn't like his carry usage, whatsoever. And then, Bateman calling out, EDC during, the press conference, pretty much like, hey, like stop blaming us and stop blaming eight. Like, go get guys who are gonna keep us healthy and go get guys who are gonna make us work. Pretty
Right.
much the summary of this tweet. And I like this right. I'm gonna switch topics real quick. I like this right here where it's another tweet from I'm like getting all my stuff from Sarah Ellison, but it says Lamar Jackson and Rashad Bateman. It's great to see my guy back out there, wide receiver one for sure. So even with Zay Flowers here, Nelson Aguilar, OBJ, and even Mark Andrews, even though he's a tight end, he still refers to him as wide receiver one. So even if they haven't really played a lot of games together, it definitely does feel like there is some kind of connection, especially off the field with those two. Obviously you don't see them hanging out like with like how Hollywood and stuff did, but it definitely does seem like Lamar has a lot of faith in Rashad Bateman. And I guess my question here is it making you happy that he's still referring to him as wide receiver one, even though we have so many more weapons on the team? And who knows, we could not be done, especially with the recent comments DeAndre Hopkins has made.
I just feel like that's more of a testament to Lamar's confidence in his guys. And
Hmm.
I feel like a great example of that is in that Browns game in 2020 when Marquise Brown dropped, I think he dropped a game winning a game leading touchdown to give the
Yep.
Ravens lead at the time. He dropped it. And you know, any other quarterback or OC would probably, you know, the next passing play probably would want to go to somebody else, but Lamar went straight to him and he
Yep.
scored a touchdown. He had that confidence in him. So I feel like, you know, that's a testament to Lamar really having confidence in his guys and still believing in Bateman, still, you know, knowing the reason why we drafted him, you know, is to be that wide receiver one. And
Hmm.
so as Bateman, I would feel good, you know,
Yep.
because I'm still valued by somebody in the team, you know,
Right.
and if Greg Roman couldn't use me right and you know see my impact, how I could be on the team.
It's
You know,
potential, right? Yeah.
my MVP quarterback can. Hopefully, my new OC can. So I feel like
Hmm.
that's a big testament to Lamar's confidence in every one of his guys. He trusts everybody, and he'll bring out the best in everybody.
Yep. And speaking about the new offense, Lamar made a comment saying that it feels smooth, and I like what he said earlier. I mean, in his interview, because it feels like something me and you have been talking about a lot, as before our podcast, as friends, on FaceTime or whatever, even in person, where it was like when you need to win in this league, you can have a great run game. You're gonna need to know how to throw that ball. You
Yeah,
throw it efficiently, not just 20 15 times a game. When you're in just January and February as well, you're going to need to have a moment where you're in a raucous crowd and there's 40 seconds left and you need to make a game-winning drive. That's just what the playoffs are. That's what
yeah,
they're made for. It's cold, it's probably windy, it could be snowy, it could be rainy. You don't know the environment you're going to be in. Because when the playoff time comes, I've been to playoff games, not Ravens playoff games, but Orioles playoff games. The atmosphere feels different. I have never been to a football playoff game, but I already know when you step in there, the atmosphere is different. Even just going to a Sunday night football game, atmosphere is different than just a 1 o'clock game. Imagine that in a playoff atmosphere. Imagine the tension in the crowd. Everybody feels it because you could be watching your team's last game or you're rooting for the opposing team's last game. So I think that the comment he made was pretty much, I can't find it, but he pretty much said that you have to win in this league by slinging the rock. Like he said, he like likes all the good running game stuff like that, but he feels like with Todd Monken's new offense, he could throw the ball down the field and throw it down the field effectively. That's pretty much the premise of what he said, and that's exciting watching having him say that because the Ravens have been known as a run team and a defensive team. But with our defense being so good and our run game being so good, the times have changed, and they've changed slowly, but it's like they've changed ever since probably like 2012 and above, and I think that's kind of fitting considering we won our Super Bowl that year. So with him saying that, what are your confidence levels? I want your two perspectives, as in, give me your perspective in 2020. The Ravens are down by 3, or no, they're down by 4. There's 40 seconds left. You have one timeout. You're either in Raucous Buffalo or you're in Raucous Kansas City. Do you have faith in him to go make that drive and win the game? Or now in 2023, we're same scenario and same situation. Which do you have more confidence in with the way Lamar's talking about each of these situations?
I definitely have more confidence right with the team we have right now,
Mm-hmm.
in either situation, Buffalo or Kansas City. I feel like our weapons are much better. I feel like
Yep.
we have an OC that understands, or hopefully understands how to use our weapons in better situations. And
Yep.
just kind of piggyback on that, I feel like a big reason why Greg Roman's offense fizzled out so quickly is because he didn't understand the receivers.
Yep.
You can't take guys like Willie Snead and Marquise Brown and make them number one wide receivers. Marquise Brown isn't even the number one wide receiver on the Cardinals right now.
Yep.
Arguably, he's probably wide receiver 2 or 3 because they always have D Hop and they have Rondale Moore. They have a couple other options. They had AJ Green too last season.
Yep.
And same thing with Willie Snead. Willie Snead wasn't the number one option when he was on the Saints. That was Brandon Cooks.
Yep.
So you have guys that aren't even number one wide receivers, and you're trying to make them to be, and they don't have the talent to be like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Todd Monken has a better understanding of receivers. Hopefully, he
Yeah.
played a top college team. Georgia won the championship 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel like what we have right now. I would feel much better, much confident in either of those situations, just
Right.
because everything is new, everything is fresh, revamped,
Mm-hmm.
everything feels smooth, just like how you said, Lamar said.
Right. And the most important thing that I've seen from the way people talk about Todd Monken is that he's not some guy. He's gonna have his ace, wide receiver. He's gonna want to get to the ball to, but the ball is being spread around. That is the most important thing that you need here, because think about like the Chiefs and why they're so good. They have Travis Kelsey. He's been their number one target, Patrick Mahomes' whole career,
Yeah.
and he's had elite, like elite talent and Tyreek Hill as a wide receiver. And honestly, outside of Tyreek Hill, his wide receivers have been either average or maybe even slightly above average, and Miko Hartman, Sammy Watkins, and there was another one.
Josh
Uh,
Gordon.
Josh Gordon. Well, he had him for a little bit. I can't remember. There's another one. Even this year, Juju Smith-Schuster and MBS. I forgot. And then somebody else. I forgot. Tony.
Kadarius.
Kadarius Tony. So the most important thing what they do, especially in the playoffs, is they try to get into the Kelsey as much as possible because it's hard to guard him. But in a situation that he is good, well covered, they spread the ball, and that's the most important thing. Is for us back in the day, meaning not really back in the day, but a few years ago, it was Andrews or nothing. It felt like,
Yeah.
and then if that didn't work, run the ball. And that even seemed like it didn't work, because you think back to the 2019 playoff game, Lamar threw the ball like 50, 60 times.
Yes.
You think back to the 2020 playoffs where we stuck to the ground game in the first game, in Titans game, and then I don't know what we were doing in the divisional game, and then obviously we didn't get to see. That's the last time we saw Lamar in the playoffs. But I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot right. Everything seems like it's going in the right direction. I hope stuff doesn't come spiraling down just because we're Ravens fans and everything has to happen to us, that's negative. But it just feels like if he spreads the ball and we get the ball down the field effectively, we have a good shot to be one of the best teams in the league. And I think that's going without saying, to be honest. That's going to be said with, and I think the most important thing here is, red zone success as well. It seemed like the last few years, the red zone success has struggled, especially last year. I mean, it was bad last year. It was terrible. Like when you got to the red zone, you either knew it was a turnover or a field goal. Nothing else. You weren't getting a touchdown. And that's not how you win football games, especially especially in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I had to say about everything that happened at OTA day 2 and day 1. And do you have anything else to add about all the OTA stuff?
I'm just looking forward to just great chemistry built by our guys and just building towards hopefully a championship season. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yep, I agree. And before we do get out of here, I do want to announce that the Ravens have signed defensive tackle Angelo Blackson. He's a 30-year-old defensive tackle who's been in the league a lot. And he played his last 2 seasons in Chicago. I believe we also signed a center about a week ago. I don't remember his name. I think he was also out of Chicago. So we've gotten 2 players from Chicago. I don't know how that's gonna round out our team, but you know, I guess before we go, I have one last question. One last question. So Lamar posted on a story, I mean, on his Instagram that he's excited to be back. He's posted pictures from OTAs, and Marcus Peters commented under it, and expressed that maybe he misses it here. And with that happening, and our cornerback situation kind of still uncertain, Would you mind to bring him back?
I wouldn't mind it at all. I feel like we can get one more good season out of him, and then hopefully in the next draft we can, draft a good cornerback
Right.
expect. But I wouldn't mind it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still brings a solid skill ability to the team. He's a leader. He's not scared
Yeah.
of anything or
Right.
anyone, and he plays fearless and he plays tough, and I like it. He plays like
Mm-hmm.
a. And I just wanted to
Sorry.
say, those 2 players we got from Chicago, I mean, at least we can expect them to be tough. They come from Chicago, so
Well, I don't know how tough you're gonna be for a 3-14 team, but 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 anyways, enough roasting at teams anyway. So expect more content from us. A breakdown of the Orioles Yankee series, which we finished in tomorrow. Gaining some progress right now. I believe we're winning or losing 2-1. So hopefully we pull that through, especially after a heartbreaking loss last night. Also expect
five.
more OTA, huh?
It's 5-1.
Well, looks like we're not going to win the series. But like I said, make sure you subscribe. I want to try to see if we can go out to a training camp thing. I really want to see if we can do that because that sounds like fun. So maybe that's something we can do if you're up for that. I don't know if it costs money or whatever, but I mean it probably does. But we'll look into it. We can get snap pictures and videos if we do go there. Even if we don't do it this year, we'll try to do it next year. But I believe that's all we have. You have any last thoughts?
That's all.
All right. Well, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Share on Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, wherever you can. And we're Birds of Prey, and we're out.
Wow.